All right, so the day is here for my Sub-17 5K attempt. Here we are at the start line and lined up with all the runners right at the start. Starting on a little bit slippery grass, and then we were off on the green belt. If you've been following along for this series, I wanted to capitalize on my Boston Marathon aerobic fitness. So ran the Boston Marathon a couple of months ago and then wanted to do a shorter training block, focus on speed work, see if I could get down under 17 minutes. I ran a 17:08 at the beginning of this mini training block, and the goal today is to run sub-17, which is a 5:28 mile per average. So took off with my friend Ryan there in the blue, and Barrick. Just met him at the starting line, and we took off, and the pace was pretty hot. I had done a race pace kind of predictor workout, 3x1 mile, and I knew that I could probably run a 5K in the 5:20 to 5:25 range. And so I knew kind of going out, I should probably be running around 5:25 pace if I wanted to have a good negative split. At the same time, I kind of made a game time decision that we had about around 14 mile an hour tailwind on the way out. And there we have my family. That's my wife and daughters. They were out there cheering for me. Super special to see them. My kids know that I run all the time, but they typically don't come out for races. I don't race a ton, and so when I do, I often travel for a race. But we went out for this first mile. I don't know if you can tell, but we went out pretty hot, and kind of made that game time decision that, I might have a positive split today. I just kind of want to pace with these guys, see where we're at, let the tailwind take us a little bit, recognizing that it might hurt a little bit. I might get a little slower on the way back after the turnaround point. And here we are down this straightaway. There's a lot of trees all throughout the green belt. You go under a couple tunnels, so it's always a little bit spotty with the GPS. But there's the 1 mile sign, and you can tell we went out a little quick. 5:17 is the fastest that I have run a mile, honestly, in years. And to open up a 5K, kind of setting a new current mile PR, that is not an ideal way to run a race. And you can tell that Barrick is pushing the pace, and we're coming down this straightaway. One of the unique things about this race, this was the Boise Meets World 5K, put on in benefit for Ruja, which that is a nonprofit in Uganda. They have a school and a medical clinic, and the proceeds were going to build a church in Uganda. And I was functioning somewhat like a volunteer coordinator. We had over a dozen volunteers from our church. We had tons of runners out here from our church, Hill City Church in Boise. And so I had kind of one mind on that and one mind on the race, which I found out today was pretty tough. Here around Warm Springs Golf Course, you can tell it really opens up. The sun starts beating down. It's a little bit warm here in June, and getting the final little bits of that tailwind. And there's the crew manning the water station. Of course, we're not stopping for water. We're just trying to go for a quick time today. And coming up to the turnaround point, this is where things kind of started to go wrong. I look back and I see this is probably the pivotal moment of the race where we only have a few seconds behind. I'm probably 3-4 seconds behind Ryan at this point, and you can see there was a near collision. Shout out to Matt. I didn't know who was going to be filming the race ahead of time. I didn't have anyone lined up, but I brought a bike just in case, and I found Matt, who's one of our volunteers, and he hopped on the bike and filmed the whole thing. But I was kind of pinched between Matt, and then we had an oncoming bike, and I rolled my ankle a little bit, and you can tell even within around 100 meters, Barrick and Ryan are just gone. So I went from being about 3 to 4 seconds back to being probably closer to 10-15 seconds back in the span of 200 meters, which was incredibly challenging. Flipping around, we're going from having a 14 mile an hour tailwind to now running into a headwind, and I'm just all alone. The thing that kept me going, though, is we had so many people you can see giving me thumbs up. We've got awesome people cheering. That's Dave and Mary cheering right there from our church, and probably about 3/4 of the runners were from our church, so they knew my name. They were giving me shout outs. So many people just saying, "Go Josh, you're right there." And that kept me going as strong as I could. But to be completely honest, I started to just mentally check out in this race. You know this if you're running. If you're with a pack, if you're linked up, then the effort just seems about probably 3 to 4% easier. But as soon as you drop off, and I've had this happen a few times in races at pivotal moments, it's so easy to just let the pace kind of suffer. And so I knew with such a fast first mile, I would need to run at least in the 5:30 range if I was still going to meet my goal of running that sub-17 5K. And so I'm coming up around this corner, trying to shout out all the people that I'm seeing run. But I know around this corner, I'm going to get to mile 2, and there you have it, 5:33 for the second mile of this 5K. And at this point, I'm a little bit worried. I ate up about all that I could eat up of that time that I had banked, and I knew that I only had 1 mile left, and I really needed to hang on to the pace. Now, this is where things started to get a little more difficult. You didn't have as many runners that I was passing, shouting me out, giving me high fives, that sort of thing. I didn't have anyone behind me to kind of push me to go faster. No one was going to catch me at this point in the race for that third place. But also, you can see Ryan and Barrick, they're out of sight by this point in time. They probably got me by about 25 seconds at this point in the race. And so I'm just trying to stay relaxed, trying to stay smooth. Honestly, my effort wasn't out of control. My heart rate stayed. I think my average for this race was in the 150s, maybe 154. And so my heart rate wasn't out of control. The aerobic fitness was there. Honestly, my legs and the speed was there. I just mentally had a hard time pushing, had a hard time staying engaged. I think part of it was trying to coordinate volunteers, trying to find someone to film last minute. A few other things took place. I found out that I was going to have to preach the next day where I wasn't scheduled to preach last minute, I've got that on my mind, and I'm just really trying to say, okay, if I'm going to hit this sub 17 minute 5K, I've got to stay focused. I've got to find a way to rally here at the end. And I'm looking down at my watch, and I'm seeing anywhere from 5:30 to 5:45 pace. Again, the GPS gets a bit spotty. There's a few tunnels that you run under, lots of tree coverage. So I'm checking my watch. I'm hoping that those 5:45s aren't real, that I'm actually running a little faster than I think I'm running. But I know coming into this tunnel, this will be the third mile, and there you have it, 5:30 for that third mile split. So I was struggling to maintain the pace. Coming up this hill, I know it's going to be close. I'm going to need literally every second that I can get. So I speeded up. Coming around this corner is the final 0.1 miles, and there's the finish line. And right then I see my wife and daughters coming out, giving me one last cheer section. It helped a ton because there really wasn't anyone cheering at the finish. So I come running through the finish as fast as I can, trying to be under 17, stop my watch, and then boom, flat on my back. The grass was wet. I had my marathon shoes. They don't have a great outsole on them, but just fell down at the end. Obviously not an ideal way to finish the race. And honestly, this is kind of how I felt about my race experience is I felt like I had so much more in the tank, and I kind of fell flat. One thing that was redeeming about this race, my daughters were there. They were so proud of me. It's Father's Day weekend, and got to be there with my wife and daughters, got to cheer on. After I finished, I got to go out and cheer on everyone else from the church. Overall, I was excited about the experience, excited about a great day, but ultimately felt a little bit unsatisfied with the race. If I had paced properly, if I had stuck to the plan, if I was a little bit more mentally focused with those few adjustments, I think I could have seen a lot better result on the day.
That'll do. All right, so that's 5K done. I just cooled down, cheering people on, picking up the course signs. It's a unique run today where I'm kind of like one half volunteer coordinator and helping run the race, and the other half actually running the race. So yeah, ended up final time, I'll have to check, but 16:56, 16:57, something like that. I'll pop it on the screen. And I'm happy with that. It's about a 10-second PR, 11-second PR, something like that. Definitely takeaway from the race. improper paced race. I think I could have ran significantly faster if I just ran my own race. I went out super hot and then just kind of trying to hold on to the finish. So pretty significant tailwind on the way out, and then that turned into a headwind on the way back. And yeah, excited that I got the goal. You know, my goal was sub-17. That would have gotten me top 10 in the state of Alaska in 2008 high school cross country, that was my goal as a senior. And I had a stress fracture and wasn't able to accomplish that. And I think, you know, I ran in the high 17s and was just happy to be competing in Alaska. So finally getting to that fitness and that speed that I wished I had, you know, almost 20 years ago now. But the race was fun, super fun, having people cheer me on, right? About probably 3/4 of the people out here were from our church, so people knew my name, were cheering for me. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a great starting place, and excited to see where we go from here. Gonna take a little bit of time off training, doing any kind of speed work, and I think the next thing I'm gonna do is do the Boise Trails Challenge and get a bunch of videos for that series. So if that's something that you're interested in following along, or any running tips, shoe reviews, if you want to see part of this running journey and it's helpful to you, I would encourage you, hit subscribe button. Check out Ruja.org. They do great work in Uganda. Super happy they far surpassed their fundraising goal of $10,000 to build a church. I think they fundraised $16,000 from this event. So shout out to Ruja, shout out to Hill City Church, who showed up today in force, in numbers. Super proud of our church community for just supporting this, and we'll see you in the next video.